Good morning, welcome to Sunday live show for 0 to 100 challenge. Today is Sunday, so we have a very interesting live Q&A session with myself. So just in case you haven't been watching, my name is Sam, aka that Uncle Sam. I'm owner of Fire City Gym here in Singapore, about 20 years of training experience. And I do other forms of training practices as well. So refer back to the earlier video and you'll understand me a little bit more. But what's more important is that we have a very special guest here with me today, and she is Dawn, aka that mom of four. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Dawn.
Thank you for the quick intro, Sam. I am Dawn, owner of Triumph Fitness. I teach aerial, I teach yoga and Pilates, but I did start off on a different foot right at the beginning, and then only later on did I focus more on yoga, Pilates and aerial. So I do practice different disciplines. I train in a variety of ways, not just yoga, Pilates and aerial, of course. My name suggests it, right? I have 4 kids, I have 4 daughters, and they're age 14, 12, 8 and 4. All miniature versions of myself, and so that's what I do. I help change people's life for the better, hopefully.
I'm sure you do. Okay, so did you mention which studio you're from?
Yep,
Okay.
Triumph Fitness.
Alright, so let me quickly recap what the 0 to 100 challenge is first. Now, first and foremost, it's a 4-week program to help you develop physical and mental wellness. And you can also catch pre-recorded and live videos every Monday to Thursday in the mornings. And they'll always be led by leading trainers in Singapore. So catch them in action and perform the workouts together with them. You're going to make very good progression and development through the trainings. Now, also more importantly is catch myself with guest trainers every Sunday live from 10 a.m. Okay, and so here I have with me today Dawn, and let's start on a lighter note first. So over the circuit breaker and phase 1, what have you been up to?
A major difference in how I teach, I would say immediately, was to just go online. It was quite short notice, really short notice for all of us in the fitness industry to be told that we had to close our facilities. So I started teaching online live classes to my students, and I'm still continuing to do that. It has only been a very great experience, I'd say, in a very good way. Yes, it was difficult when we first started, but once you get the hang of it and you keep going, you realize that you're starting to see people more often than when just teaching in a physical space, because now we don't have to worry about traveling, we don't have to worry about parking or making it into a class in time. The moment you're done with work, you just turn on your Zoom meeting and that's it, you're in class already. So chances are you're already changed for class hours before, probably even by lunchtime for the evening class. So the convenience is one thing, not just for my students but for myself as well, to be able to conduct my classes. And I've been spending more time with my kids at home. I've been still teaching a lot of classes, but I also say I have been tapping a lot more on the virtual scene to continue doing what I do.
So I hear that some of the significant points would be that it really helps us to cut down on traveling time, and we can actually use this traveling time to take part in more fitness and wellness activities, and that when we are home we also get to spend more time with our families as well. Now, I think also something to point out is that since you mentioned that online classes are getting more popular now, do you think the benefits of being in a gym physically and comparing to online, is online better or worse, or what's your take basically?
There are pros and cons. Like I said, if you're doing it online, the convenience is something that you just cannot compare with having to rush to a physical space to do the class. You may not even make it to the class, but because spaces are limited, especially now, right? We're very limited with how many people we can put into a class before the circuit breaker because of the safe distancing measures that are in place. So with online, we can have so many more people. However, with online classes, for many people, they choose to turn off their camera. We can't even see what's going on. So there's no correction for these people at all. And for some others, if you're using a phone to follow the class, we cannot see what you're doing because your phone is so close to you. At the most, we just see like a tenth of your body. So correction is something that we're not able to do very well, if at all, if you're taking on virtual classes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So interesting point to take note as well, because last Sunday and the week before, we actually did mention that get comfortable and get used to putting your camera out while you're performing the workout, and get used to setting it at an angle where you can make comparison with your form and your technique as well. So as you do it more regularly, you get better as well, and would also indirectly benefit teachers like yourself who is online conducting the class. And if the teachers could actually observe your movement while you're on online streaming, it's going to help the teacher to help you with the corrections as well. So bringing us back, the 0 to 100 challenge is an online challenge, online programming, online training. So do you think it's going to be like beneficial and reach out to more people as well?
For sure, I think, because there's no judgment, right? You're doing it on your own at home. And there's no comparison. There's nobody else next to you to give you that stress. No one there to compare with, and you're just in the comfort of your own home. You can pace yourself. You know, if the class is already going on for a while, you know, just replay the thing again, and then just try it out one more time.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
Yeah,
I totally agree. So, especially since we have the live and pre-records videos. In fact, they're all available throughout the week from Monday to Thursday. All you need to do is go to the web link or go to our web link, click on the videos and watch the workout, perform the workout together. You can actually review and prepare yourself mentally what to be expecting for the workout as well. So not only do you have convenience, but you've also got proper guidance from the trainer in our program. Okay, so let's talk about the your first impression, like 0 to 100 challenge. What was your first impression when you hear 0 to 100 challenge?
When you first told me about the 0 to 100 challenge and it involves sit-ups and push-ups and squats, I immediately thought, oh, so you're going to make somebody go from doing zero of those things to doing 100. It's quite daunting for many people to think about that, but when you further explain that it's really your state of mind, your mental state, as well as probably your confidence and a whole lot more. It's not about repetitions. It's not just about repetitions. It encompasses so much more. So from going to starting point to somewhere, that's what 0 to 100 means. And I think that's an amazing idea. I think that's an amazing point to raise for many people, because it's your 0 is different from somebody else's 0.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So just to kind of reinforce, it isn't about challenging you to perform 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, or 100 squats. It's about setting and developing that mentality for you to break through your own physical, mental limitations to improve your capacity at the same time. All right. So, so very quickly, what would your advice be for anyone who hasn't gotten started yet? Especially, this is the start of week 3. So if you're watching this show right now and then you're kind of like still contemplating about whether or not you would want to take up this challenge, what would your advice be for them?
Just take the first step. Don't have any expectations and just do it. Even if you don't complete the whole workout, just see where your starting point is, where your 0 is, and then work from there. Right? So again, our 0s are different from person to person, and so are our 100s. So find out what that gap is for yourself after you tried just the first workout. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm really horrible at this. Or I'm pretty good at this. And then you know where you need to work, the areas that you need to work on, and what your challenges are, and start moving from there. Start doing the movements that will help you to get better in what you feel like you're lacking in, right? So our shortfalls or our challenges will be different from person to person as well. But you will only know when you start, when you take the first step. If you don't move at all, nothing is going to happen. You won't even know where your starting point is and what you need to work on. So I'd say just take the first step.
Yeah, try out one of the program as
yes.
well. Yeah. So on the first Sunday recording, we actually did a baseline testing as well. And like what Dawn emphasizes, like just take the first step. If you're not comfortable with doing a baseline testing, just try out one of the training program first. And after trying out any of the training program, at least you know where your baseline and where your capacity is, where it's kind of like maybe where you're lacking and where your strengths are. Build on the strength and work on the weakness.
Yep, totally.
Yeah. Okay, so now, Dawn, you are like my master or the master of yoga and Pilates here in Singapore. So or let's put it like you're most well known for yoga and Pilates here in Singapore. So how would you think as a yogi teacher or yoga teacher and a Pilates teacher, what would your approach be or what would your advice be for your members and your students?
Well, I get asked a lot. Firstly, I want to emphasize that for both practices, they have more similarities than differences. But yes, there are still differences after all. For anybody who's just about to start on with these two, I'd say, just give it a try, okay? And it's actually, they're more mindful practices. Both of them are very mindful practices. But for one of them, if you have more injuries to begin with, I would say start off more with yoga. And if your idea or your goal, your aim is to strengthen your core muscles more, then I would say Pilates is the way that is the one that you want to start off with. But in truth, I would say do both because yoga will work more with flexibility and mobility, whereas Pilates focuses a little bit more on the strength part.
That's true. So, but if we were to push them into, or encourage them into, wouldn't say push, I'm sorry, but encourage them to taking up this challenge, how should the approach be like then?
I'd say to choose certain exercises that are very similar between the two of them. So in fact, it's not just with yoga and Pilates, but even when you compare it with CrossFit and several other disciplines, like even in Wushu, martial arts, a squat is a squat with each one of these. We just give it different names, all right? So and the way you do it, the way you execute it is really quite different in the different disciplines as well, down to the way that you breathe when you're doing the exercises also. So just give it a try. It's just giving it a try, and you're still going to do the same movement, but you will actually see a little bit of a difference only when it comes to like the way you breathe and the way you go into the movements, but the end is the same.
So I guess this is really the part where our session here is going to get a little bit more interesting. So I think we mentioned earlier that different practices and different sports has pretty much the same thing. A squat is a squat, a push-up is a push-up. But with the different types of practice, we tend to have different cues, different focus, different attention to the engagement or initiation of the movements. So let's just start off with the tip of the iceberg first. Like, how are push-ups, sit-ups, and squats different in your opinion on different practices?
Let's start with the squat first then. For yoga, we tend to hold in a stationary pose, right? So we stay there for maybe 8 breaths, 10 breaths, a minute, and then you will start to shiver. Just because you're holding still, it doesn't mean that it's easy, right? For Pilates, it's a bit more dynamic. In fact, in some instances, we may even start to pulse and hold it in a difficult angle to work with, and then you start to do tiny little movements from there. With yoga, we do hold it in a chair pose where you're kind of in mid-air. We go into a full squat as well. And it both works in a very different way. For people who have stiffness, tightness in your joints, a full squat is going to be so difficult. If you lack strength, your chair pose is going to be so difficult. So you still work on both aspects at the same time. With Pilates, we work with almost like a chair, like a squat position. Even lunges, we do that as well. But yeah, we make it more dynamic. So you have to work through a certain range of motion, and you develop strength and mobility and control of that movement through a different range of motion. But we don't work with power. We don't work with additional resistance. We don't work with speed. That comes in different disciplines. So that's where I say, it's not fully holistic. If I were to just practice yoga, I would never in a million years be able to chase after a robber if he takes my bag away. It's different, isn't it? So
maybe the robber is also a yogi.
Okay.
I don't know. Okay, but I think the point to take note over here is that fitness falls into different categories as well. For a gymnast, fitness is this. For a yogi, fitness is this. For a Pilates practitioner, fitness is this. For a track athlete, fitness is this, and so on and so forth. So I think that is an interesting topic that I think we should cover a little bit more today. Do you want to cover up for the push-ups and sit-up first before maybe we try some demo and some cueings and instructions?
Yep. I firstly like to point out something as well. Like with several of the mat-based practices that we do, especially in yoga, we don't do very many pulling movements. That's one thing that I find is lacking as well in mat-based yoga kind of practices. Yes, with the equipment in a Pilates studio, we do use quite a fair bit of equipment to help with pulling, especially with the reformer. So pulling movements might be tougher for Pilates, for yoga practitioners. But yeah, in general, with the pushing movements, like when we do a chaturanga or a push-up in yoga and Pilates, it's pretty similar. Yeah, but like you said, the approach is a bit different. It's a bit more dynamic in some practices and more static in others. And the speed at which you work at is also different. So I think in general, it's still the same. You go through, if you were to just take little screenshots of the movement in each discipline, you will still see the same kind of movement going on.
Yeah. It's interesting because as you're sharing, what's going through my mind, it's on the other hand, it's like thinking for example, the CrossFit style, just for example, might be useful for speed and power, but the same technique, even though it's the same movement, for holding and pauses would be very painful.
Yeah.
Possible, but very painful. Yeah. So how about squats? How about sit-ups?
For yoga, we tend to do boat pose. We don't do sit-ups. Yeah. So we hold it in that position. With Pilates, we do the teaser. Yeah. So it's like a V shape that you're trying to hold. And we do.
How is it teasing?
It teases your abdominal muscles until you start shivering.
Okay.
But we do roll downs and roll ups in Pilates as well. So you work through quite a big range. Although we don't work so much with speed, so it can be rather painful if for people who do have lack of mobility in between the spine. You tend to drop.
Yeah.
So what we want to do in Pilates is articulation of the spine as you go down and as you roll up. For yoga, we don't do that. And in fact, even in a simple movement like a bridge, when I ask for my Pilates students to go into a bridge, we literally peel the spine off the ground like it's a bicycle chain, right? And then you lift you articulate your spine to go into a bridge. Versus in yoga, you just lift your hips up into a bridge. So you don't work so much at the spinal articulation or little minute controlled movements like that. So, but the end movement is the same, right? You still get up into a bridge. Yeah.
Well, I really enjoy this conversation so much, but my body is itching to try and to observe as well, because we're throwing in a lot of words that yogis, Pilates practitioners, even like myself, should be quite familiar with. But I think going into peeling, articulation, holding, and teasing is the first time I hear that actually. And I simply love speaking to trainers and teachers from different practices, because at the end of the day, we literally are speaking the same thing. But somehow the words comes out, it almost sounds like a different language altogether.
Yep.
So I'm familiar with articulation, but we simply call it a curl. Curl your spine. We don't go articulate your spine. It's but same but different, right?
Yeah.
So you would say things like maybe diaphragm breathing, stomach breathing, tummy breathing. I'm not the most familiar, but in my world, we basically just say
box breathing.
Yes, we have box breathing, and then we have diaphragm breathing as well, but it's kind of different, and we kind of encourage intra-abdominal pressure, simply because we're lifting. Yeah. Okay, so shall we move?
Okay, so we're gonna do a little challenge. Is it? No.
We're gonna demonstrate the different, the same but different.
Okay.
Let's go through the same but different, because right after this we still got some common questions posted that we've collected over the week since I was here with Fizi last week. So and then we'll cover those commonly asked questions as well. But I think for a start is I really like the fact that you are a leading trainer for yoga practice, and you're also a leading trainer for Pilates. So it's almost like the two worlds combine into a session, and it allows us to go further in depth into the various practice styles and instructioning.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna pull the chair back a little bit and pull the table back a little bit, and then from there we will run through like, like just show me, like how would you go in depth into, I was told this is heavy with water, it's interesting. Okay. Okay. So, what do you want to start
Let's
off with
start
first?
off with the squat.
Okay.
Okay, so in yoga, we have two, like I mentioned earlier, the two main ones, okay? One you see very commonly is chair pose.
Okay.
So let's have our feet come together. From the side, this is easier to see, right? Feet together. And we're gonna
together.
have your arms reaching forwards as your hips go back, and then you extend your arms up alongside your ears.
But it's not full squat, so
No,
it's
it's
not
not.
functional.
Like I said, that is just one of the two.
Yeah.
And then of course we have the full squat as well, where you go into this position here.
What do you
right?
call that?
It's just a full squat.
Okay. Well, we call it Asian squat. Or
Yes.
ass to grass.
Well, some Asians can't do that. I have Asians who can't do that.
Yeah, but well,
Yeah.
it's just a name. It's just a name,
Yeah.
that's all.
Yes. So, you know, the difference is we are still holding in these two positions. We're still holding. In the second one, yeah, I go all the way down. It's actually very restful. But it's not for people who have stiffness in the joints. Here, it wouldn't matter so much. It will matter more to people who lack strength, like I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, so that's actually my next question. What would the deliberate practice for chair pose be?
Progress
The-
with
the
small
focus.
movements first. Yeah. Okay. Or
Okay,
you might even
okay.
have one leg in front of the other and just work on one leg first, right? And then the other side. Chances are with both legs you will tend to you apply more weight on the stronger side and not on the weaker side. So personally I would still prefer it's easier for me to get people to train the weaker side if I work on one leg at a time. Because with both I can't tell. I mean as a teacher, as a trainer, we can't tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I might have them just, work on one leg and then after that on the other side. And then with both sides, you just work with progressively going into a deeper chair and then holding the wall.
So in aspect, like, what do you think would be okay, so what I hear is like we want progressive range of motion in my world. Okay, so share with me what you think. We have control, speed. And I want to emphasize that on my side, and I draw the division because I want everyone to hear that at the end of the day it's same but different. That's like really the
I
point.
fully agree with that as well.
Yeah, it's speed, and speed is subjective. Like this may be fast for me, but to others could be very slow because I've attended Pilates class. Like this is very fast, very fast.
Because we work with control.
Yes, and then there is strength as well, but strength goes in line with coordination. So I like what you suggested earlier in terms of like going the chair pose, working on a shorter range of motion, and then gradually working on strength and gradually working on balancing at the same time. So reason why I ask is because we often than not hear like, hey, I was told squats I should not bring my knees beyond my toes. And I think in today's session, you will probably be the best person to answer why, when we go into a squat, it's okay to have your knees come. Is it okay to have your knees come before your toes?
I think it's okay depending on the load that you're working with as well and the speed and the force that you have. But this is not with yoga and Pilates. We don't work with force, we don't work with speed in these two aspects. So this comes from my experience from other disciplines. So it's actually normal for us to be able to work with movements where our knees are in front of our toes. But it really depends on the situation.
Okay, so so then let's try it. Like, how would you guide me into a squat?
Okay, so let's come into chair pose first, shall we? Yoga first. All right, so feet together. Yeah.
Should have asked that. Okay.
He
And
has
then?
difficulty doing that. All right,
This is
now
gonna be painful.
imagine there's a chair behind you and you're trying to sit on it while your arms are reaching forwards and up. All right, so can you bring your arms next to your ears? Okay, now can you have your hands come together?
Yes.
So good. Can you clasp your thumb? Good. Can you now look at your hands at the same time? Very nice. Okay, now where do you feel the muscles working?
My shoulders actually.
'Cause he's tight
but
there.
yeah, they're heavy. But
Look up here.
my quads.
Good. Okay. And then as you look up towards your hands, what do you feel now?
I can feel my weight being adjusted towards my heels. And
Do you feel your back?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So again, come on now. So that was him just staying there for maybe about 3-4 breaths. Okay. So we generally hold there for a lot longer. So whatever burn or whatever muscles that you feel working there, of course the intensity starts to increase the longer that you hold.
Okay.
Yeah. But for many people who have issues with wear and tear, or they have they have injuries, repeated
injuries.
movements may not be an option for
True.
them. Okay, so working with static movements like this is a better option. Yeah.
Okay.
And then obviously you start with maybe holding a table first for balance, and then you come into a small squat, and then as you get stronger you go into a deeper one. And if you don't have any issues with your shoulders, your arms at all, and then you can manage it, you go for the full pose, which is what I made him do.
So I think sounds like the squats, or moving on to the squat, the progression or the movement is pretty much similar. It's like, so from closed feet, work on limited range motion or lesser range of motion, focus on control, focus on weight bearing, focus on balancing, and then gradually going deeper and deeper. So when do we actually bring the knees to past the toes?
When you go further into the pose and when you go into a full range, all right? So if you were to go into a full squat, which is normal, it's normal, but it's not common for many people, not because they've lost that mobility and the flexibility. So as you progress to go deeper into your full squat, right? At some point, you will notice that the knees have to go past the toes. Wear and tear from running for so many years.
Okay.
Yeah. Potato chips. I have potato chips in my pockets.
Okay. And
Yeah.
then-
Okay. So as long as there's no pain, all right, and you don't have pre-existing injuries, a full range of motion is actually advisable for you to practice to go into in the long term on a regular basis.
So as we progress from like
So
a
you would have
quarter to
from
a
having your
half.
knees together. Yeah. We generally don't just progress from a chair pose to a full squat. Yeah. We work with a lot of hip
Hip
joint mobility movements first. So you warm up or you make the joints more supple through a lot of other movements. Then you go into that full squat. So you prep into going it. So I would go
Okay,
into, let's say, a side split kind of a movement, and then onto the other side, all right, and then just popping everywhere. It's in the morning. What do you expect? Yeah, feels really good. Okay, and then
I'm sorry, the mic, or unless your volume is really high, you might not hear it, but over here I'm hearing a lot of
potato chips
popping.
crunching and
Now-
balloons popping. Yeah.
So that kind of like brings me to another topic, but we can cover it a little bit more in details later on, is what is common and what is normal. So clicking and popping is definitely getting more and more common, but is it a normal kind of thing? We'll discuss a little bit more later. Okay?
Okay. So yes, work into going into a full range motion, which requires a lot more warming up, which requires a lot more prep work. Otherwise, you're going to force yourself to go into it. Something negative is going to happen.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything specific that it's about push-ups and sit-ups that you want to cover?
Yes. Very commonly, we would hear people complain about wrist pain, shoulder issues. So not everybody can immediately go into a push-up, even a prep for push-up or a high, a plank position here. Immediately, right? They would just all of a sudden have to drop their knees down because their wrists hurt, and you see them doing things like that. Go to the wall. Okay, so use the wall. Can I go to the wall?
No, it's okay, I'll be your wall.
Okay, I have to pretend, social
Okay.
distancing,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so have one foot in front of the other, perhaps even if you have to put your hands up against the wall to just start to notice how you're
If I'm the wall.
loading.
Yeah.
He's the wall, yeah. Okay, so notice how you're loading your weight onto your hands. Very often, people place more weight on the wrist part of the hand versus distributing the weight to the other parts of the hand also. So we will just advise them, put a little bit more weight on your fingers, your knuckle parts. Can you maybe even turn your hands outwards? And these all generally will help people to be able to distribute more weight from the wrist to the other parts of their hand. Yeah, so that can very ideally, very easily help people to take the pain or pressure away from the wrist, or just go onto your forearms.
No, I think come forward a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, so what I hear is like the common words. It's like make sure the heel of the palm. I mean, at least on my side, we call it like making sure the heel of the palm, even the heart of the palm, okay, and your finger pods. Make sure that they're all working, because you see, technically we don't walk on our heels. We walk with the ball of our feet, we walk on our toes as well. So quite naturally, when we are in our push-up position, we should technically also have the fingers like our toes and the base of the fingertips, which is like the ball of the feet, placed on the ground just to distribute the entire weight as well.
Yep.
Yeah. So what I hear in common and something that I'm learning through you right now is that movement isn't always about getting into the range of motion. It's about preparing the joints and getting them ready,
Yep.
strengthening and conditioning them. Now, by means of strengthening, it doesn't mean that you have to pick up like weights and resistant bands and start like working on your fingertips and your hip joints. It literally means like just moving around to allow some form of lighter weight.
Yep.
Particularly like in this case, it's just my leg weight. Going into conditioning practice, getting movements in. And I think something that I usually highlight as well is that some movements may seem simple, but often taken for granted. So if you're watching this and some of the things that you could try is simply stand and rotate your hip. Now, not often do we actually have a full circular, smooth movement. If you haven't been practicing this movement, you might find that the movement gets a little bit jerky, or you might lose certain range of motion along the way as well.
Yep.
So this is an interesting finding for me today to understand that getting into a movements such as a squat, a push-up, for example, isn't about getting in the position and let's go for it.
Yeah,
It's
it's the
actually
prep
about
work.
preparing the joints, limiting or progressing in terms of range of motion to go into it. So
Yeah, and I think this is
Thank
something that we emphasize a lot in yoga as well. Like, it's not the end point, or it's not just the pose that you're working towards, it's the journey. So if you want to be able to do this in a long term, when we talk about exercise, it's not just, oh, I think I'm just going to exercise for 3 months and then that's it. No, you start a journey to getting fitter. It's got to be something that you see yourself doing in the long term. And these things take time, right? So for many of us, we tend to just want shortcuts. There's no shortcut about it, yeah. So if you're looking for a shortcut, you can be sure that you're going to get injuries. You can be sure that you are not going to get the results that you want. It's not sustainable, right? So take the baby steps. Make it enjoyable. Make it something that you can always achieve. And then at the end of it, you can be proud of, and you don't beat yourself up for it because I didn't achieve it, because your goals are just not realistic. So set the realistic goals. Focus on the journey and the progression. I think many times we always think, hey, I'm just going to do like 100 push-ups a day. How possible is that for most people? Even for myself, I think I would just die if I just go 100 push-ups. Yeah.
I didn't finish the 100 push-up the other
See?
day as well.
Yeah. So the key is, how can I do one push-up properly?
Yeah.
And then work on that. So the prep work becomes your workout. I think that is something that is more doable for many of us, and that can be your 0 to 100.
Yeah.
From doing a lousy garbage push-up or chaturanga to doing a one that's 100% safe for you. So my chaturanga would look different from his chaturanga and somebody else who has a shoulder injury or wrist injury. So know what your goal is, the end product that you want, and then work towards that. But in the meantime, you have to make sure that it's something that's done specific to your needs and your limitations.
So key points over here is that if you're not too sure how to do it, find a goal. It could be an aesthetic goal, it could be a skill-based or strength-based or performance-based goal, but doesn't matter what goal it is, at least you have a goal set. And then baseline test from somewhere. So it could be a movement test, it could be a capacity test, it could be like, all right, I'm just gonna go out and run today and see it when before I get winded. It could be 400 meters and then you're winded. It's okay, because that's kind of like the baseline testing.
Yeah.
And the third point, more importantly, is that try to have a progressive program. Like in this case, the 0 to 100 challenge over here has a progressive program all through 4 weeks. Now, there are many other programs out there as well. It's just that I'm right here, and this is right here within your grasp. So just get it, try it, and then just follow it. There's nothing to lose. It's just 4 weeks, an hour each day.
Yeah.
Okay. So I need to take a deep breath before I say this. So before we close today's session, okay, I was being told that I'm gonna put myself through a very quick 2-minute teaching from you, by you, and see how. So basically, maybe in 2 minutes time, can you teach me something?
Okay, so you talk about push-ups a lot, okay? And I think...
I say about squats a lot and sit-ups as well.
It's okay. I'm very partial towards the push-up part. Okay. Because generally guys are much stronger on the upper body than girls are. Okay. So I think I'm going to challenge him to a push-up based kind of a movement.
Okay.
Okay. Are you ready?
No, but we have to start somewhere, right? That's the point of this show.
Okay. I'm gonna have to
but I'm gonna try.
I'm gonna have to shoo you off a little bit more. Okay. So basically, when we talked about the distribution of the weight earlier on each hand, that one is important, okay? But a lot of other factors come into you being able to execute something that's complex. What's complex for me is complex for somebody else who's just starting off. Like I said, our 0 to 100 points are different from person to person. Your capabilities and your limitations are different, okay? So for this particular exercise, it would be a challenge for most people, but I would say it's fun as well, okay?
Fun for you to watch.
We built on the that particular movement that is your push-up. So if you have a very strong push-up base, you have a much easier time doing this as well. Just by incorporating a few other teeny weeny bits of
I won't brag about it, but let's see.
Okay, so where we start off is from all fours.
Okay.
I'm gonna spread my fingers on both sides, all right? And you notice that I have a very good gap in between both all my fingers as well. I'm gonna come into a downward facing dog position, all right? I'm gonna shift my weight forwards into a push-up position, right? But I'm gonna raise one leg up to the side, all right? And then I'm gonna lean forwards, bring my knee towards my upper arm. At the same time, come into that push-up position, and then fly. On to you, Uncle Sam. Split leg, forearm balance.
Okay, so we're gonna try.
Down
Alright,
dog.
so first we're gonna go on fours.
Yep.
Okay,
And
and
then
after that,
down
going down
dog.
to a downward dog.
Yep.
And then
Raise
go
one
forward,
leg up.
raise one knee forward.
Yeah, to your upper arm.
And I'm gonna bend my elbow.
Yeah. And then
Where does my other leg go?
your other leg goes up in the air.
This one? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let's try this side. Okay, going forward.
And then you go into your split.
That's deep.
Open the legs out.
Wait, I can get this before my face turns too red. Okay. So you're gonna go down.
Yeah, and then split.
Ta-da!
Not bad, not bad. But
Oh my God.
he's really using a lot of upper body strength. Actually, the secret to be able to doing that very well is your balance.
Yeah, I can feel that.
Yeah, so you have to lean forwards far enough in order to...
It's like doing break dance, right?
I know, right? What a baby freeze now. So, yes.
See, the point is same but different.
Same but different. Breakdance is also the same thing,
Yeah.
right?
So whether is it dance, Pilates, yoga, CrossFit, like I need to prove myself. So I can kind of like hold like this, not a problem. But to go into a
Yeah, because mobility wise, he probably has not done very much work to. Yeah.
Okay.
So there you go.
Thank you very much. So this is what we have for you today. Any closing words? Any advice?
No,
Last words?
just make your practices, make your trainings a fun one. It's just like what we always tell kids or how we teach them, right? It's got to be enjoyable. If not, you're not even gonna want to look forward to it. Or the moment you can find an excuse, you go with the excuse and you just forsake this, all right? So I would say just make it a commitment, make it a fun one, something that you can look forward to, and you have to make it something that's doable. Yeah, not out of reach.
Words of wisdom from Mum of 4. So if all 4 children can do it and are constantly doing it, I'm sure your children can as well. Okay, so thank you very much for joining us today in 0 to 100 Sunday Live Q&A session. Thank you very much, Dawn, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I look forward to next Sunday to have you on board as well. I have a special guest coming on. He is big, really big. Okay, so take good care, continue to try out the program, and don't forget to sign up for following on our website as well. You get to earn like badges, you get to get live updates of the programs as well. So enjoy the weekend, take good care, and I'll see you soon. Bye.